The storage corridors of the station were dark and quiet, filled with shelves stacked with crates, containers, and forgotten supplies. Most of the inhabitants paid little attention to this part of the station. It was narrow, dusty, and smelled faintly of oil and recycled air. But in one small, neglected closet, something lived that no one noticed: a tiny dragon hatchling, abandoned and alone. The hatchling was small even for its kind. Its scales were dull, lacking the bright colors that other dragons displayed proudly. Its wings were tiny, barely able to flutter, and its eyes were wide with fear. It huddled in the corner of the closet, curling its tail around its body, shivering slightly from the cold. The faint hum of the station's life support was the only sound it heard, a constant reminder of how alone it was. Days passed in silence. The hatchling had been rejected by its own kind. The other dragons of the station had deemed it too weak, too different to survive. They had turned away when it hatched, leaving it to struggle on its own. The hatchling's soft chirps and tiny squeaks went unheard, ignored by those passing through the storage corridors. No one cared. No one noticed. It was as if the universe itself had forgotten it. Hunger gnawed at the hatchling's belly. It had no mother to feed it, no siblings to share warmth, no one to guide it. The small creature tried to find scraps among the dusty crates, nibbling at tiny pieces of discarded food it found hidden in corners. Sometimes it would knock over a can or a piece of old machinery, only to be startled by the sound. Its chirps were sharp and nervous, a reflection of its fear and frustration. Night fell over the station, though the lights never fully went out. The hatchling curled even tighter, trying to stay warm. Its wings twitched nervously, and its tail flicked against the metal floor. It felt the cold of the closet, the emptiness of its life, and the sting of rejection. In a corner, it pressed its small head against the wall and let out a tiny whimper. The sound echoed softly, but no one came to hear it. No one came to care. Despite the harshness of its life, the hatchling held a small spark of hope. It watched the faint light that seeped through the cracks of the closet door, imagining that maybe, just maybe, someone would see it. Its little claws scratched at the metal floor, and it chirped quietly to itself as if reminding itself to survive. Survival was all it had left. Survival and the tiny dream of kindness. One day a shadow moved past the closet. The hatchling froze, pressing itself against the wall. Its wings twitched nervously and it held its breath. A human figure stopped nearby, pushing a cart filled with cleaning supplies. The sound of brushes and brooms rattling made the hatchling flinch. It had learned to be wary of every passerby, every footstep, every glance. Humans and aliens alike had ignored it or worse, shooed it away. Its trust had been broken too many times to risk it again. The human paused, kneeling slightly to sweep some dirt near the closet door. The hatchling's eyes followed him nervously, its tail flicking. It made a small, cautious chirp, unsure if it had been noticed. The human continued sweeping, humming softly, unaware of the tiny creature watching him. The hatchling hesitated, then crept a little closer to the door, drawn by a strange warmth in the human's presence. It could not explain why, but something about the human felt different from the others who had ignored or rejected it. The closet remained closed, its small occupant hidden from the world. It had learned to survive in the shadows, to exist without care or comfort. It had grown used to loneliness, to the silence of rejection. But the spark of hope inside it refused to die. The hatchling chirped softly, testing the sound, and listened as the human's hum drifted closer. A tiny flicker of courage moved within it, a wish that maybe, just maybe, someone would see it, care for it, and help it feel safe for the first time. As the station lights hummed and flickered, the hatchling curled itself around a small scrap of cloth it had found, pressing its head gently against the hard floor. It closed its eyes, shivering slightly but holding on to the tiniest thread of hope. The world outside the closet seemed vast, cold, and indifferent. Yet somewhere beyond the shelves, someone moved with kind intent, unknowingly drawing closer to the tiny dragon that had been forgotten. The hatchling's life had been full of rejection, full of neglect, and full of silence. It had been told in every possible way that it did not belong, that it was too small, too weak, too different. But even in the darkest corner of the station, in the shadow of abandonment, it waited. It waited for a chance. A chance for warmth, a chance for care, a chance for a human to open the closet and change everything. And somewhere down the corridor, Eli, a human janitor, moved closer to that closet, unaware that his simple act of opening a door would turn loneliness into hope, fear into trust, and rejection into the beginning of an extraordinary bond. The hatchling stirred slightly, lifting its head and blinking at the faint light, unaware that its life was about to change forever. Eli pushed his cleaning cart down the narrow corridor, the wheels squeaking slightly against the metal floor. He had been sweeping and dusting for hours, his uniform smudged with dirt and grime, but he didn't mind. This was routine work, and routine gave him a sense of peace. He hummed softly to himself, listening to the distant hum of the station's life support. As he approached the end of the corridor, a faint, high-pitched chirping caught his attention. He paused and tilted his head, listening carefully. The sound was soft, almost desperate. He frowned. No one should be making that noise here. Slowly he followed it, pushing his cart closer to a small, neglected closet. The sound grew louder, a tiny, trembling cry that tugged at something inside him. Eli crouched down and gently pushed open the closet door. The smell of dust and old supplies hit him, but he barely noticed. There, curled in a corner, was a tiny dragon hatchling. Its scales were dull and lifeless, its wings small and weak, and its eyes wide with fear. It pressed itself against the wall, tail wrapped protectively around its body. The hatchling froze completely, unsure if it should flee or fight. Eli's heart softened immediately. He had never seen a dragon this small, this fragile. Most dragons in the station were large, proud, and fierce. But this one was different. It was alone, abandoned, and terrified. He knelt slowly, keeping his movements calm and deliberate, and whispered softly, "Hey there, you're safe now. I won't hurt you." The hatchling tilted its head, uncertainty clear in its eyes. It let out a tiny, hesitant chirp. Eli smiled gently, reaching out a hand, palm up, and waited. He didn't force it. He didn't try to grab or touch it immediately. He knew that trust had to be earned, especially with a creature so small and scared. After a few long moments, the hatchling inched forward slightly, sniffing the human's hand. Its tiny claws scrabbled against the metal floor, and it chirped softly again. Eli murmured reassuringly, "That's right, it's okay. Come here if you want." Slowly, carefully, the dragon edged closer, still cautious but curious. It was a tiny step, but a step toward trust. Eli searched the closet quickly and found a clean cloth tucked behind some old boxes. He gently wrapped the hatchling, making a little nest around it. The dragon shivered at first, but as the warmth of the cloth reached it, its body relaxed slightly. Eli stroked its small head gently, murmuring, "There, see? Warm, safe, you don't have to be afraid." The hatchling's eyes blinked slowly, and it chirped a little more confidently. It curled up in the cloth, tail wrapped tightly, wings tucked in, but no longer trembling as much. Eli's heart swelled. He had always cared about small things, machines and toys, but this was different. This was a living creature, fragile and alone, depending on him completely. He set up a small makeshift water dish from a discarded container and offered it to the dragon. At first, it hesitated, sniffing the liquid carefully. Then, slowly, it lapped at it with a tiny tongue. Eli smiled softly. "Good, good," he said, whispering encouragement. "That's it, drink, eat, rest. You're safe with me." Eli knew he couldn't keep the hatchling in the closet forever. The space was cramped, and it needed warmth, care, and space to grow. But for now, this small corner was enough to begin. He spent the next hour talking to it quietly, cleaning the area and making it comfortable. The dragon listened, eyes half closed, chirping softly occasionally, learning to recognize the calm and gentle tone of Eli's voice. As he worked, Eli noticed something remarkable. The dragon wasn't just scared, it was intelligent. It tilted its head when he spoke, followed his hands with its eyes, and responded to subtle gestures. Every tiny movement it made showed curiosity and awareness. Eli realized that this was not just a creature to feed and shelter. It was a being capable of learning, of understanding, and of forming a bond. By the time Eli finished cleaning the corridor and organizing the closet, the hatchling had relaxed more than he could have hoped. It had inched closer to him, resting its tiny head on his knee. Eli laughed softly, a warm, gentle sound. "You're going to be okay," he said. "I'll make sure of it. I don't know what happened to you before, but I won't let anything hurt you again." The dragon let out a soft, almost contented chirp. Its wings twitched slightly, but it did not try to flee. Eli stroked its scales, feeling the smooth, fragile texture beneath his fingers. For the first time in days, the hatchling felt safe. For Eli, a simple janitor in a busy space station, this small creature had become something far more important than a job or a task. It had become a responsibility, a companion, and perhaps, the start of an extraordinary friendship. Eli stayed with the dragon until the evening lights of the station dimmed, making sure it was warm, fed, and comfortable. He whispered softly, "We'll figure this out together, okay? You don't have to be alone anymore." The dragon chirped once more, pressing its head gently against the cloth, and for the first time, it truly believed it might be safe. In that small, quiet closet, the lonely hatchling had found a human who cared, not out of duty or obligation but out of compassion. And Eli, the human janitor, had found something far greater than any simple task. A life to protect, a trust to earn, and the beginning of a bond that could change both of their lives forever. Days turned into weeks, and the tiny dragon under Eli's care began to grow. Each morning, Eli would find the hatchling stretching its small wings, attempting to flap them even though they were still too weak to lift it off the ground. Its scales, once dull and lifeless, were beginning to shimmer faintly under the station lights. The little creature's eyes, once wide with fear, now held curiosity, trust, and a spark of mischief. Eli had moved the dragon from the cramped closet to a small section of the storage corridor that he had cleared and organized. He had patted the floor with soft cloth, stacked crates for climbing, and placed containers for water and food. Each item was carefully arranged so the dragon could explore safely. It was not much, but it was enough for the young dragon to learn, grow, and start to feel at home. Feeding became a daily ritual. Eli improvised meals from what he could find: nutrient gels, small pieces of protein, and even scraps of alien vegetables scavenged from the market. At first, the dragon was hesitant, sniffing cautiously at each new offering. But with gentle encouragement and the warmth of Eli's hand nearby, it began to eat more confidently. Each successful meal brought relief and pride to Eli, and with each bite, the dragon grew stronger. Playtime became essential. The dragon's curiosity and energy could not be contained. It explored every corner of its small habitat, climbing on crates, testing its claws, and occasionally knocking over containers. At first, Eli found himself frustrated by the mess, but he quickly learned to channel it into safe exploration. He built small climbing frames from discarded materials, created soft rolling objects for play, and even fashioned tiny ropes for the dragon to tug and swing on. The creature learned quickly, flapping its wings with more confidence, and began responding to Eli's voice during play. Their bond deepened with every passing day. The dragon began recognizing Eli's footsteps, chirping excitedly whenever he approached. It would nuzzle his hands and climb onto his shoulder, resting its tiny head near his neck. Eli spoke to it in gentle, patient tones, explaining simple actions like where to find food, how to stay warm, and how to explore safely. Slowly, the dragon began to understand the rhythm of life in this section of the station and relied on Eli's guidance. Eli discovered that caring for the dragon was more than just providing food and safety. He had to observe its moods, notice subtle signs of discomfort, and anticipate its needs. When it shivered, he added extra cloth and warmth. When it chirped nervously at sudden noises, he spoke softly, guiding it back to calm. Every small interaction built trust and reinforced the understanding between them. As the dragon grew, its wings became stronger. It began making small, controlled leaps from crate to crate, flapping and gliding for short distances. Eli cheered softly, offering praise and reassurance, careful not to startle it. The dragon responded to his voice, chirping happily as it landed safely. Each flight attempt, no matter how brief, was a step toward independence and strength. The dragon also began experimenting with its fire instincts. Tiny bursts of heat escaped its mouth during play, sometimes startling Eli. But he stayed calm, teaching the dragon to control it. He guided it to aim at soft materials or empty containers, ensuring safety while encouraging growth. The hatchling learned quickly, understanding the consequences of its actions while gaining confidence in its abilities. Nighttime remained a special time. The dragon, now strong enough to climb onto Eli's chest, would curl up against him as he rested on a bench. Its breathing was steady, warm, and comforting. Eli stroked its scales gently, whispering softly, "You're doing well. You're learning and you're safe now." The dragon chirped in response, nuzzling him as if to say it understood. These quiet moments strengthened the emotional bond between them, creating trust and affection that went beyond simple care. Other station residents began to notice subtle changes. Occasionally, someone would glimpse the dragon perched on Eli's shoulder or see it exploring the small area he had prepared. Some whispered in amazement, noting how the creature responded so calmly to a human. While most continued on without comment, a few started to respect the growing bond between the janitor and the dragon, realizing that compassion and patience could create extraordinary connections. Challenges still appeared. The dragon would test boundaries, knocking over containers or pawing at dangerous objects. Eli remained patient, redirecting its behavior gently. He learned that discipline, patience, and guidance were as important as warmth, food, and safety. The dragon responded to this teaching, understanding limits while exploring its world. Every challenge was an opportunity to grow, not just for the dragon but for Eli as well. By the end of several weeks, the dragon had grown significantly. Its wings were stronger, claws sharper, and body more robust. Its scales glimmered with new life, and its eyes held intelligence and confidence. The bond with Eli had become undeniable. The creature no longer shied away from the world, but looked to him for guidance, comfort, and affirmation. Eli had become more than a caretaker. He was a teacher, a protector, and a parent figure. One afternoon, the dragon attempted a longer glide from a high crate to the soft floor below. It landed clumsily, stumbling but unharmed. Eli rushed over, speaking softly and checking it for injuries. The dragon looked at him with bright eyes, chirping softly. Eli laughed, relief and pride swelling in his chest. "You're learning fast," he said, gently scratching behind its ears. "And I'll be here every step of the way." As the station lights dimmed for the evening, Eli and the dragon settled into their small corner of the corridor. The creature curled around him, wings folded, tail wrapped gently. Eli stroked its scales and whispered softly, "We're growing together. You're learning and I'm learning too. This is our world now and we'll face it side by side." The dragon chirped in agreement, pressing its head against his chest, a silent promise of trust. In the quiet of that storage corridor, human and dragon had found companionship, trust, and hope. Each day brought new lessons, challenges, and victories. The hatchling, once rejected and abandoned, now had warmth, guidance, and love. Eli, the human janitor, had found purpose, responsibility, and a friend unlike any other. Together they were growing, not just in size and strength but in bond, understanding, and the beginnings of a life that would forever change both of them. The station had been quiet for weeks, the routine of daily life carrying on with little disturbance. Eli had grown used to the rhythm of cleaning, feeding, and caring for the small dragon, who now moved with confidence around its little space. Its wings flapped more strongly, its claws had grown sharp but careful, and its eyes shone with intelligence. The bond between human and dragon had deepened, and for a while, it seemed nothing could disturb the peace. That calm ended abruptly one afternoon. A loud alarm blared through the station, red lights flashing and casting harsh shadows across the corridors. A group of raiders, pirates from outside the station, had infiltrated the docking bay. They were armed with energy weapons and devices designed to steal valuable creatures, technology, and supplies. Panic spread quickly. Humans and alien residents scrambled, shouting warnings and trying to escape the invaders. Eli's first instinct was to grab the dragon. He knew it was too small to survive alone in a chaotic attack. The creature chirped nervously, wings fluttering, tail lashing against the floor. Eli held it close, whispering, "Stay calm, we'll get through this together." The dragon's small head rested against his chest, trusting him completely. Its chirps became determined and alert, as if sensing the danger and ready to respond. They moved cautiously down the corridor, trying to avoid the raiders. Sparks flew as energy weapons hit walls, and debris rattled as panels fell loose. Eli guided the dragon under crates and around obstacles, keeping it safe. Despite the chaos, he noticed the dragon observing everything, its eyes scanning, wings twitching, tail flicking, alert to every movement. He realized the creature was learning quickly, not just about safety but about strategy, about how to respond to threats. At one point, a small group of raiders rounded the corner. Eli froze, his heart pounding. He pressed the dragon against his chest and whispered, "We have to protect each other." The dragon responded with a low, sharp chirp, a warning sound. Suddenly, it leapt from his arms, landing in front of him. Its tiny body was small, but its presence was brave. It flapped its wings, creating a gust that pushed against the raiders, startling them. Sparks from their energy weapons scattered harmlessly as they hesitated, surprised by the creature's courage. Eli acted immediately, using the distraction to guide nearby humans and creatures to safety. He shouted instructions, directing people down safer corridors, while the dragon kept watch, chirping warnings whenever someone approached too closely. Its small fire bursts, controlled carefully, ignited nearby energy panels, creating smoke that further confused the attackers. Despite its size, the dragon was proving itself a defender, responding to danger in ways Eli could only hope it would understand. One of the raiders tried to grab a nearby resident, but the dragon leapt between them, claws scraping and wings flapping fiercely. Eli rushed forward, pulling the human to safety. "Back!" he shouted, standing protectively with the dragon at his side. The creature's eyes locked on the intruder, scales shimmering in the red alarm light, and it let out a series of sharp chirps that sounded almost like a roar. The raider, unnerved by the tiny but fearless dragon, hesitated, giving Eli time to act. Together, Eli and the dragon moved through the station, blocking passages, guiding residents, and using their combined instincts to keep everyone safe. Each time the dragon used its strength or cleverness, Eli's pride and amazement grew. The hatchling, once weak and abandoned, was now a guardian. It responded to him not just with trust, but with understanding and initiative. Their bond was more than companionship, it was teamwork. After a tense hour, the raiders were finally driven off. They had been forced to retreat when security reinforcements arrived, drawn by Eli's alerts and the unusual chaos caused by the dragon's defense. The station residents began to gather, shaken but safe, and whispered in awe about the tiny dragon who had led them to safety. No one could believe how a creature so small could have so much courage and intelligence. Eli crouched beside the dragon, brushing its small wings gently. "You were incredible," he whispered, pride swelling in his chest. The dragon chirped softly, curling against him, wings folding neatly. Its tail flicked once in a playful yet exhausted motion. Eli smiled, realizing that the creature had grown in bravery and skill, far beyond what he had imagined. It had faced danger and acted with both courage and intelligence. The station slowly returned to normal. Damage was repaired, alarms silenced, and residents returned to their routines. But for Eli and the dragon, everything had changed. The tiny creature, once forgotten in a closet, had proven its worth not just to the humans and aliens around them but to itself. It had discovered its strength, its instincts, and its bravery. And Eli, who had once been a simple janitor, now understood the power of compassion, patience, and trust. That night, the dragon rested beside Eli, curling its small body against his chest. The room was quiet except for the soft hum of the station. Eli stroked its scales, speaking softly. "You did so well today. We protected them together. You're not just a hatchling anymore, you're a guardian." The dragon chirped softly, pressing its head closer, a silent acknowledgement of their shared triumph. In the aftermath, Eli realized that growth was not just physical. The dragon had grown in spirit, courage, and intelligence. Together, they had faced a threat larger than themselves and emerged victorious. The bond between human and dragon had been tested, and it had proven unbreakable. From that moment on, they were not just caretaker and hatchling, they were partners, defenders, and a family forged in fire and trust. As the lights dimmed and the station settled into quiet once again, Eli and the dragon remained side by side. The experience had changed them both, teaching lessons about courage, empathy, and the strength found in companionship. The tiny dragon, once abandoned and rejected, had discovered its purpose, and Eli had discovered that even the smallest creature could inspire the greatest courage. Together, they were ready for whatever challenges the galaxy might bring next. The days after the raid were quiet but filled with change. The station had returned to its usual rhythm, but something felt different. The tiny dragon no longer hid in corners or flinched at every footstep. Its wings were strong, its scales glimmered in bright red and gold, and its eyes shone with intelligence and curiosity. It moved confidently through the small area Eli had prepared for it, chirping softly as if announcing its presence. Eli watched the dragon with a sense of pride and wonder. The creature that had been abandoned and rejected now carried itself with courage and poise. He had watched it grow from a weak hatchling into a strong, intelligent companion. Every day had been a lesson, for both of them. He had learned patience, empathy, and the weight of responsibility, while the dragon had learned trust, safety, and courage. Their bond had become unbreakable. Station residents began to notice the dragon in ways they hadn't before. Some stopped to watch as it explored its little home, responding to Eli's gestures and voice with surprising intelligence. Others whispered quietly to each other, impressed by the unusual partnership between human and dragon. Eli had never sought recognition, but he felt a quiet satisfaction knowing that the tiny creature he had rescued was now respected by others. Feeding and care continued, though now the dragon often helped in small ways. It would chirp insistently if water or food was low, nudging Eli with its snout. Sometimes it would play with objects around the corridor, testing its strength and coordination. Eli laughed as it tugged at a rope he had tied for climbing, its tail flicking happily. "You're getting stronger every day," he said, scratching behind its ears. The dragon chirped in agreement, curling closer to him. Exploration became a shared adventure. Eli and the dragon would move carefully through the quieter sections of the station, checking for debris, loose panels, or anything dangerous. The dragon learned to navigate obstacles, follow instructions, and even anticipate potential hazards. It was no longer a helpless creature. It had grown into a guardian, attentive and aware, but still playful and affectionate. One afternoon, Eli watched as the dragon helped a small group of children retrieve a fallen toy from a high shelf. It balanced carefully, nudging the toy with its snout and allowing the children to grab it safely. The adults who watched were astonished. "That little dragon, it's incredible," one whispered. Eli smiled, pride swelling in his chest. "It's not just a dragon," he thought. "It's family." Nighttime remained their favorite part of the day. As the station quieted and lights dimmed, the dragon would curl around Eli, wings folding gently, tail wrapped securely. Eli stroked its scales, speaking softly. "We've come a long way," he whispered. "From that small, lonely closet to this, you're strong, brave, and smart. And we did it together." The dragon chirped softly, pressing its head against his chest, a quiet acknowledgement of trust and affection. Eli knew that their bond was more than survival. It was care, guidance, and mutual respect. The dragon had taught him about patience and responsibility, while he had shown it safety and love. Together they had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and had emerged stronger on the other side. They had become a team, a family that relied on each other in ways both practical and emotional. Word spread through the station of the dragon's intelligence and courage. Other residents began to approach Eli with questions about caring for creatures, seeking advice, or simply expressing admiration. Eli shared what he had learned, emphasizing patience, understanding, and empathy. "Every creature deserves a chance," he said, gently patting the dragon's head. "Sometimes the smallest act of kindness changes everything." The dragon continued to grow both physically and mentally. It explored more freely, tested its wings with longer glides, and even practiced controlled bursts of fire in safe areas. Eli supervised patiently, offering guidance and praise. Each success strengthened their bond further. The dragon looked to him for instruction, reassurance, and comfort, while Eli relied on it for companionship, protection, and joy. One evening, as they rested in their favorite quiet corner, Eli reflected on their journey. He had started as a simple janitor, responsible for cleaning corridors and fixing small issues. But the tiny dragon had transformed his life. It had given him purpose, a sense of responsibility, and a connection that went beyond species. He smiled as the dragon lifted its head, chirping softly, wings twitching with contentment. Eli whispered, "We're a family now. Not just human and dragon, but something stronger, something that can face the galaxy together." The dragon pressed its head against his chest again, its chirps soft and rhythmic. Outside the small corner of the station, stars glimmered through the observation windows, distant and bright. Inside, human and dragon shared warmth, trust, and love. From that day forward, they were inseparable. The tiny dragon, once rejected and abandoned, had found a home, safety, and guidance in Eli. And Eli, the janitor who had opened a forgotten closet, had discovered the profound impact of compassion, patience, and love. Together, they explored, played, and learned from one another, facing every challenge the station or galaxy might throw at them. The station residents, once indifferent or dismissive, now saw them as a remarkable pair. But Eli cared little for recognition. What mattered was the bond, the family they had become, and the life they shared. He stroked the dragon's scales one last time before settling down for the night, whispering softly, "No matter what comes next, we'll face it together. You're my family and I'll protect you always." The dragon chirped once more, curling around him completely, wings folded, tail wrapped securely. The lights dimmed, the hum of the station quieted, and in that small corner, human and dragon rested together. They had started as two alone beings in a vast station, but now they were a family bound not by species, but by trust, care, and love. And as the stars shone outside, both knew that whatever the galaxy held for them, they would face it side by side.